Welcome everyone to Introduction to Literature taught by Dr. Mohammed Alwishi at London College of International Studies. This course will transform how you understand, analyze, and appreciate literature. Over our time together, we will explore what literature is, why it matters, and how it engages with it critically and thoughtfully. Course outline. Let me walk you through what we will cover in this course. We will have 7 comprehensive chapters ahead of us. Chapter 1 addresses fundamental questions. What is literature and why does it matter? We will explore literature's definition and its significance in both individual lives and society. Chapter 2 examines literary genres and their unique features, poetry, fiction, drama, and creative nonfiction, understanding what makes each genre distinct. Chapter 3 focuses on critical reading and interpretation skills, teaching you how to move beyond surface level reading to deep analytical engagement. Chapter 4 situates literature in context, examining how historical, cultural, and social factors shape both the creation and interpretation of texts. Chapter 5 covers writing about literature, helping you articulate your interpretations clearly and persuasively. Chapter 6 details course assignments and assessment, clarifying expectations and evaluation criteria. Finally, Chapter 7 addresses challenges and opportunities in literary study, providing strategies for success and growth. um, Learning objectives. These are the core goals we aim to achieve together. First, you will learn to define literature and evaluate its enduring significance, understanding why literature has mattered across human history and continues to matter today. Second, you will identify and differentiate major literary genres, recognizing the conventions that define poetry, fiction, drama, and creative nonfiction. Third, you will develop critical reading strategies operating at 3 levels: literal comprehension, interpretive analysis, and evaluative judgment. Fourth, you will learn to situate literary works within their historical, cultural, social, and ideological context, understanding that no text exists in isolation. Fifth, you will construct clear evidence-based arguments in writing about literature using appropriate terminology and citation practices. Sixth, you will complete structured literature assignments with academic rigor and reflective insight. Finally, you will recognize common challenges in literary study and leverage opportunities for intellectual and creative growth. Learning outcomes, articulate definition of literature and defend its relevance using concrete examples, not just saying literature is important, but explaining preciously why and how. By the end of the course, we will as well demonstrate specific competencies, because you will classify literary works by genre and explain how formally elements like structure, language, and imagery shape meaning and reader response. You will apply close reading and interpretive frameworks such as formalism, reader response theory, and historical criticism to unpack multiple layers of meaning in diverse texts. You will analyze literature in context, making meaningful connections between texts and their cultural, historical, political, or philosophical environments, always supporting your claims with evidence. You will write analytical essays presenting original thesis, interesting and integrating textual evidence, engaging secondary sources when required, and following MLA or ABA formatting conventions. You will complete various course assignments, response paper, annotated bibliographies, comparative analysis, creative adaptations with clarity, depth, and academic integrity. Finally, you will reflect critically on challenges in literary study, such as ambiguity, bias, and the canon debates, proposing strategies for overcoming them while embracing interdisciplinary and inclusive approaches. Chapter 1, what is literature and why does it matter? Now we begin our journey with the most fundamental question: what is literature? This might seem obvious, but as we will discover, defining literature is more complex and fascinating than it initially appears. Defining literature, three key points. Literature extends far beyond simple storytelling. It represents cultural expression, the ways communicates, articulate their values, beliefs, and experiences through carefully crafted language. Literature serves as a philosophical inquiry, asking profound questions about existence, morality, knowledge, and human nature. Through stories, poems, and plays, writers explore questions that philosophy addresses through different means. Most fundamentally, literature distills the essence of human experience across civilizations and centuries. It captures what it means to be human in all its complexity, joy, suffering, love, loss, triumph, failure, preserving these experiences across time. Society's mirror. Literature functions both as mirror reflecting contemporary life and as a window into historical contexts. It reveals how individuals and the communities understand themselves, their values, and their place in the world. Individual impact. Reading literature develops empathy by allowing us to experience lives different from our own. It strengthens critical thinking by requiring us to analyze complex ideas and ambiguous situations. It builds emotional intelligence by deepening our understanding of human psychology and relationships. Ultimately, literature enriches personal understanding while connecting readers to universal human experiences. Um, Core definition of literature. As its core, literature encompasses written works of artistic value that employ language is in sophisticated, meaningful ways to explore the human condition. This definition has several important components. First, literature involves artistic value. Not all writing is literature. A grocery list of instruction manual, while functional, lacks literary quality. Second, the literary uses language sophistically and meaningfully. Literary author makes conscious choices about every word, every sentence, structure, every image. Third, the literature explores the human conditions or our experiences, emotions, relationships, societies, and the fundamental questions of existence. The University of Florida LIT 2000 framework emphasizes that literature serves multiple functions simultaneously. It entertains, keeping readers engaged and emotionally invested. It educates, teaching us about different times, places, and perspectives. It changes and it challenges assumptions, forcing us to question what we take for granted. And it provides opportunities for reflection, creating spaces for deep thinking about ourselves and our world. Unlike utilitarian writing, which serves a single clear purpose, literature invites interpretation. There is no one correct reading. Literature rewards close reading. The more carefully you examine it, the more you discover. Often, literary texts reveal new dimensions. With each encounter, a poem you read at 20 means something different when you return to it at 40. Not because the text changed, but because you have. The fundamental questions driving literary study. The fundamental questions driving literary study are: what is literature? Why do authors write it? Why should we read it? These questions have no single answer, and that's part of what makes literary study intellectually rich. Literary emerges from human creativity and the desire to communicate complex ideas, emotions, and experiences that resist simple explanation. Some experiences are too layered, too emotionally charged to be reduced to straightforward statements. Literature provided the form for expressing what cannot be said more directly. Authors write for many reasons. Some write to preserve memory, personal memories, community histories, cultural traditions that might otherwise be lost. Some write to challenge injustice using stories to reveal social problems and inspire change. Some write to celebrate beauty, finding and creating moments of transcendence. Some write to explore identity, their own or others, understanding how we become who we are. And some write to grapple with life's profound questions: why are we here? What makes life meaningful? How should we live? Readers engage with literature for equally valid reasons. We read to expand our understanding beyond our limited personal experience. We read to live through characters expressing situations we will never encounter firsthand. We read to develop empathy, learning to see from perspectives different from our own. We read to sharpen analytical skills, learning to think critically about complex situations, and we read to participate in ongoing cultural conversations spanning generations, joining discussions that began centuries before us and will continue long after we are gone. Literature as a contemporary relevance. In our contemporary moment, literature remains vital despite, or perhaps because of rapid technological change and information overload. We live in an age of tweets, I mean X now, text messages, quick social media posts. We live in an age of distraction with constant notifications demanding our attention. Against the backdrop, literature offers something increasingly rare and valuable. Literary texts offer depth in an age of surface level engagement. They provide nuance where so much contemporary discourse trades in simplistic binaries. They enable sustained reflection in an age that rarely pauses. Literature preserves voices that might otherwise be lost, marginalized communities, historical perspectives that didn't make it into mainstream historical accounts, individual experiences that do not fit dominant narratives. Literature creates a space for these voices. Literature challenges dominant narratives, questioning the stories society tells about itself, revealing contradictions and excluded perspectives. Literature creates a space for marginalized perspectives, allowing readers to encounter viewpoints systematically excluded from mainstream media and discourse. Ultimately, rich literature matters because it reminds us of our shared humanity while celebrating our differences. It offers both comfort, recognizing ourselves in others' experiences, and the necessary discomfort, challenging us to question our assumptions and confront difficult truths as we navigate an increasingly complex world. The scope of literary study encompasses far more than simply reading stories. It represents an interdisciplinary exploration connecting multiple fields: history, culture, politics, identity, science, technology, media, commerce, and social structures. When we approach literature, historically, texts become rich archaeological sites, just as archaeologists excavate layers of earth to understand the past civilizations. We excavate layers of meaning in texts to understand the societies that produced them and the human experiences they capture. Literature isn't isolated. So when we approach literature historically, texts become rich archaeological sites, just as archaeologists excavate layers of earth to understand the past civilizations. We excavate layers of meaning in texts to understand the society that preceded them and the human experiences they capture. Literature isn't isolated from these other domains, is deeply and connected to all of them. Every text emerges and emerges from a specific historical moment, reflects particular cultural values, engages with the political structures, explores identity formation, and sometimes even addresses scientific or technological questions. Understanding these connections makes us better readers and more informed citizens. History, literature's historical dimension. Through literature, we access historical moments with immediacy, impossible to impossible in standard historical documents. Consider the difference between reading history textbooks, a summary of the Great Depression, and reading John Steinbeck's The Graves of Wrath. A history textbook tells us facts, unemployment rates, economic indicators, government policies. These facts matter, but they are abstract. A novel set during the Great Depression doesn't merely tell us facts about 1930s. It allows us to inhabit the consciousness of people living through economic collapse. We feel their fears when they lose their homes. We understand their hopes as they travel west seeking work. We experience their daily struggles deciding whether to spend money or food or gas. Similarly, examining the literary production of specific periods reveals cultural values, anxieties, and inspirations that shaped entire generations. What we people what were people writing about during World War First? What themes recurred in literature during the civil rights movements? These patterns reveal what communities were thinking, feeling, and struggling with. Literature preserves lived experiences and perspectives from across time, giving us access to subjectivity, how it felt to live in a particular moment in ways that other historical sources cannot. Building cultural literacy. Developing cultural literacy through diverse texts means understanding the references, allusions, symbols, and the contexts that inform meaning making across communities. Every culture has shared stories, symbols, and references that members recognize instantly, but outsiders might miss. The literacy extends beyond Western canonical work. The traditional great books of European and American literature. While those texts have value, they represent only one tradition among many. Cultural literacy encompasses global literatures from Asia, Africa, Latin America, indigenous narratives from colonized regions, and contemporary voices from marginalized communities within Western societies. Each text we encounter expands our interpretive framework. When you read more widely, you begin recognizing patterns, similar themes appearing across cultures, um, archetypal characters recurring in different traditions, narrative structure that appear universal. You trace influences, seeing how writers respond to and build upon previous writers, and you appreciate in the textual conversations occurring across time and geography. How a contemporary Nigerian novelist might be in conversation with a 19th century Russian author, even if they never met. Cultural literacy isn't about uh, memorizing facts, it's about developing the ability to recognize significance, to understand context, and to appreciate how meaning is culturally specific while sometimes also transcending specific cultures. Science and technology interdisciplinary connections. The intersection of literature with science and technology offers a particularly fascinating terrain. Literature isn't opposed to science, they're complementary ways of understanding human experience. Science fiction explores the ethical implications of technological advancement. What happens when artificial intelligence becomes conscious? How should we navigate genetic engineering? What are the social consequences of climate change? Science fiction allows us to imaginatively explore these questions before they become urgent realities. Medical humanities examines illness narratives, how people experience, understand, and communicate about disease. These narratives reveal aspects of illness that medical textbooks miss: the emotional journey of diagnosis, the social isolation of chronic illness, the existential questions raised by morality. Environmental literature grapples with humanity's relationship to the natural world in an age of climate crisis. These texts helps us to understand our ecological um, embeddedness and imagine different relationships with the environment. These connections demonstrate that literary study provides essential tools for navigating contemporary challenges. Scientific inquiry can tell us what is possible, but literature helps us think through what is desirable, what is ethical, and what is human. We need both perspectives: the analytical measure and of science and the humanistic perspectives of literature to address the complex challenges facing contemporary society. Four key contextual dimensions. Let me summarize four key dimensions that literary study engages. So history literature preserves lived experience and perspectives from across time, giving us access to how people in different areas and different eras understood their lives. Culture texts reveal values, beliefs, and practices of communities, what they celebrated, what they feared, what they considered normal or transgressive. Politics literary works engage with power structures and social justice: who has power, who is marginalized, how inequality is maintained or challenged. Identity literature explores how individuals and groups understand themselves, how identity is formed, performed, constrained, and liberated. These dimensions aren't separate, they are interconnected. A text treatment of identity is shaped by political structure, which emerge from cultural values, which develop through historical processes. Good literary analysis recognizes these connections while maintaining focus on the specific text at hand. Chapter 2: Literary genres and their unique features. Now we turn to the major literary genres. Literary genres represent distinct categories of creative writing, each with characteristic forms, conventions, and possibilities. Understanding genres provide reading and readers with interpretive frameworks expectations about structure, language, and purpose that guide comprehension while reading and reading open to innovation and genre blending. The four major genres: poetry, fiction, drama, and creative non-fiction, each offer unique approaches to expressing human experience and exploring ideas. No genre is inherently superior to another. They're different tools suited for different purposes, and skilled writers choose the genre that best serves their artistic vision. Poetry overview and key features. Poetry represents most concentrated form. Every word carries significant weight and meaning emerged through the intricate interplay of sound, rhythm, imagery, and structure. Unlike prose, poetry draws attention to its own language, making the reader actually aware of how meaning is constructed through formal choices. When you read a novel, you might become absorbed in the story and forget you are reading words on a page. Poetry won't let you forget, it constantly reminds you of language itself. Poetry encompasses diverse forms from traditional sonnets with strict rules about meter and rhythm to free verse that creates its own unique patterns. What unifies these varied forms is poetry's emphasis on compression and intensity. Key features include concentrated language and form. Poets choose every word carefully. There is no room for filler or unnecessary words. Each word must earn its place. Emphasis on sound and rhythm. Poetry is meant to be heard even when read silently. The sounds of words, their vowels and the consonants, the rhythm, the music contribute to meaning. Rich use of figurative language, metaphors, similes, personification, symbolism. Poetry relies heavily on figures of speech to create multiple layers of meaning, multiple layers of interpretation. A good poem can't be reduced to a single paraphrastic statement. It means many things simultaneously, and different readers will find different meanings, all potential valid if supported by the text. Fiction overview and the key features. Fiction constructs imagined words and characters that illuminate real human experiences through narrative techniques like plot, characterization, point of view, theme, and setting. Fiction writers craft complex explorations of human nature, social dynamics, moral questions, and the mysteries of existence. Fiction includes both short stories and novels. Short stories are compressed narratives focusing on a single effect or revelation, typically featuring fewer characters and covering shorter time spans. Novels are extended narratives with room for multiple plot lines, complex character development, and detailed world building. Key features include extended narrative structures. Fiction unfolds over time with events connected by casuality. This allows for detailed storytelling that develops gradually. Complex character development. Fictional characters can be as psychological complex as real people, with contradictions, inner conflicts, and capacity for change. Flexible point of view options. Fiction can be told from various perspectives: first person, I or we; third person, limited, following one character's perspective; third person, omniscient, knowing all characters' thoughts; or even second person, you, each creating different effects. Detailed world building. Fiction creates entire worlds physical settings, social structures, cultural practices that readers inhabit imaginatively while reading. Drama overview and key features. Drama occupies a unique position among literary genres because it exists simultaneously as written text and live performance. While we can read plays silently on the page, they achieve full realization only when actors embody characters, directors interpret staging, and audiences participate in the immediate communal experience of theatrical performance. This double nature creates distinctive analytical challenges and opportunities. When reading drama, we must imagine performance possibilities while attending to textual details. We must see and hear the play in our mind's theater. Key features include written for stage performance. Unlike fiction or poetry, drama is fundamentally incomplete until performed. The written text, a blueprint, not the final product. Dialogue driven storytelling. Drama lacks narrative description. Everything must be revealed through what characters say and do. This makes dialogue carry enormous weight. Visual and auditory elements. Drama engages multiple senses through costumes, sets, lighting, sound effects, and actors' physical presence. Immediate audience experience. Drama happens in real time before a live audience, creating unique energy and communal experience. Theater audiences respond collectively, laughter, silence, tension affecting the performance itself. Creative nonfiction overview and key features. Creative nonfiction represents literature's expanding boundaries, challenging traditional distinctions between fiction and nonfiction, between written text and visual art. These works combine factual content with literary crafts, demonstrating that true stories can employ sophisticated narratives techniques while maintaining commitment to actual events and lived experience. Creating nonfiction includes memoirs, personal essays, literary journalism, travel writing, and graphic narratives that combine images with text. Key features include grounded in actual events. Unlike fiction, creative nonfiction is committed to truth. The events described actually happened. The people are real. Literary crafts and technique. However, creative nonfiction uses literary techniques, scene construction, dialogue, sensory detail, metaphor, narrative, um, to make factual material engaging and meaningful. The creative designation doesn't suggest invention of facts, but rather artful arrangement and presentation of true material. Personal perspective and voice. Creative nonfiction often includes the author's personal presence and perspective. We don't get objective reporting, but rather subjective experience. Expanding genre boundaries, this genre continues evolving, incorporating new forms and blurring boundaries between different media and moods of experience. Then let's go for genre diversity and innovation. Genre diversity enriches literary study by offering multiple lenses through which to examine human experience. Each genre has unique strengths, and understanding these strengths helps us appreciate what authors can accomplish in each form. Consider Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice. This play demonstrates the drama's power to explore complex themes of justice, mercy, prejudice, and identity through dialogue and performance. The trial scene, while Portia argues for mercy while ultimately using legal technicalities to defeat Shylock, gains powerful from being witnessed by an audience from seeing actors embody these conflicts. Meanwhile, margin, graphic memory, Persepolis combines the virtual art with narrative to convey the experience of growing up during the Iranian Revolution. The stark black and white illustrations capture aspects of experience that words alone cannot. The visual oppression of mandatory veiling, the dark propaganda images of revolutionary Iran, the contrast between public conformity and private rebellion. This work challenges traditional definitions of what constitutes literature. Contemporary authors frequently blend generic conventions to create innovative hybrid forms that expand literary possibilities. We see novels incorporating poetry, plays, including narrative sections, creative nonfiction using fictional techniques. These innovations keep literature vital and responsive to contemporary experience. Poetry, language, form, and meaning. Now let's explore each genre in more depth. Beginning with poetry, poetry represents literature's most concentrated form, which where every word carries significant weight and meaning emerges through the intricate interplay of sound, rhythm, imagery, and structure. Um, Meter and rhythm. So, understanding poetry requires attention to multiple dimensions simultaneously. What the poem says, how it says it, and why those choices matter. Meter and rhythm, the pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables creates musical qualities. In English poetry, the most common meter is iambic pentameter or pentameter, five pairs of stressed followed by stressed syllables per line. Shakespeare wrote his plays primarily in iambic pentameter because it mimics natural English speech rhythms while being more elevated and musical. Traditional meters like iambic um, pentameter establish expectations that poets can fulfill or violate for effect. Meanwhile, free verse poets create unique rhythmic patterns serving their particular purposes without following predetermined metrical patterns. Imagery and symbolism, concrete sensory details, create vivid mental pictures in readers' minds. Good poetry doesn't tell us she was sad. It shows us images that convey sadness, gray skies, wilted flowers, single tear. These concrete images simultaneously represents abstract concepts, symbols accrue meaning through repetition, culture, context, and relationship to other elements in the poem. A rose isn't automatically a symbol, it becomes a symbolic figure through how the poet uses it and what traditions the poet invokes. A stanza and form. The visual arrangement of lines into stanzas creates units of meaning and pauses for breath and thought, like paragraphs in prose. Stanzas organize ideas, but they also create visual patterns on the page. Fixed poems like sonnets, 14 lines with specific rhyme schemes, or uh, villainies 19 lines with elaborate repetitions impose structure that generate creative tension. The restriction become opportunities. How does the poet say that what they need to say within these strict constraints? Open forms offer flexibility, allowing poets to create um, forms suited to their particular content. Tune and voice. The Shakespeare's, for example, said that the speaker's attitude toward subject matter and audiences shapes interpretation. Is the tune reverent or ironic, joyful or melancholy, angry or resigned, diction, word choice, syntax, sentence structures, and formal choices all contribute to establishing and maintaining a tune throughout the poem. Voice is the distinctive personality that emerges from these choices. You can often identify a poet by their characteristic voice. Now let's go for case study Emily Dickinson. Let's examine a specific example. Emily Dickinson's poem Essential Oils Are Wrong employs extended metaphor to explore the relationship between art and morality. Dickens was a 19th century American poet who lived a largely reclusive life but wrote nearly 1,800 poems. Her work is characterized by compressed syntax, unconventional punctuation, especially dashes, and unexpected line breaks that create ambiguity, inviting multiple interpretations. In this poem, Dickens' central conceit compares poetry to essential oils extracted from flowers. Essential oils are concentrated essences. You extract the fundamental nature of the rose into a few drops of oil. Similarly, poets and poetry distills and preserves life's essence, granting immortality through static transformation. The poem suggested that while physical life is temporary, flowers die, bodies decay, art transcends morality. The essential oil outlasts the flowers. The poem outlasted the poet. This is a common theme in poetry. Art as a means of achieving immorality. Dickens' formal choices reinforced the theme. Here compressed syntax mirrors the compression she describes, just as essential oils concentrate floral essence. Her poetry concentrates meaning in too few words. Her dashes create pauses and ambiguities, forcing readers to slow down and consider multiple meanings. Now let's go for Elizabeth Bishop. The fish demonstrates how detailed observation can lead to a profound insight. The poem is an extended description of a caught fish, but through careful attention to detail, it becomes much more. Bishop was a century a 20th century American poet known for her precise imagery and restraint. She doesn't indulge in emotional display. Instead, she carefully observes and describes, trusting that meaning will emerge from observation. The poem extended description gradually accumulates detail, the fish's appearance, its age, its scars, the hooks from previous catches, still embedded in its jaw. Each detail Bishop adds changes over perception. We begin seeing the fish not as simple catch, but as a creature with history, resilience, and dignity. Then comes the moment of recognition that transforms the speaker's perspective. After carefully observing the fish, the speaker releases it. The poem's final line, and I let the fish go. represents both physical release and a kind of spiritual insight born from truly seeing another creature. Bishop's precise imagery and restraint create a narrative arc within a descriptive poem, demonstrating poetry's capacity for storytelling through careful attention to the particular. The poem teaches us that if we look closely enough at anything, we find significance. Close reading techniques for poetry. Close reading techniques essential for poetry analysis include reading aloud to hear sound patterns. Poetry is meant to be heard. Reading aloud reveals rhythms, rhymes, and sonic patterns you might miss reading silently. Mapping formal structures. Identify the rhythm, scheme, count syllables to determine meter, notice line breaks and stanza divisions. Understanding the formal structure helps you see how the poet uses form to create meaning. Identifying shifts in tune and perspective, many poems contain turns or shifts, moments where the tune changes or the perspective shifts. Finding these turning points is crucial for interpretation. Tracing recurring imagery. If the poet mentions roses in line 3 and again in line 15, that repetition matters. Trace how images occur and evolve throughout the poem. Considering historical and biographical context. While poems aren't autobiography, knowing something about when and why a poem was written can eliminate meaning. Attending to what remains unsaid, poetry often works through implication and suggestion rather than direct statement. What is the poem not saying? What gaps or silences are significant? Poetry rewards patience and multiple readings, revealing new dimensions each time we return to a text with fresh questions and deeper understanding. Your first reading gives you a general sense. Your third or fourth reading reveals layers you initially missed. Fiction, narrative structures, and themes. Now let's turn to fiction. Fiction constructs imagined worlds that illuminate real human experiences, employing narrative techniques to create compelling stories that engage readers intellectually and emotionally. Um, Fiction core elements, plot, and the characterization. So, before we can say that fiction constructs imagined worlds that eliminate real human experiences, employing narrative techniques to create compelling stories that engage readers intellectually and emotionally. Through plot characterization, point of view, theme, and symbolism, fiction writers craft complex explorations of human nature, social dynamics, moral questions, and the mysteries of existence. Understanding these elements enhance appreciation for fiction's artistry while developing analytical skills application that be applicable across contexts. Plot structure, the arrangement of events creates a narrative arc. The traditional structure includes the exposition, introducing setting and characters, rising action, complications, and conflicts develop, climax, the moment of highest tension or the turning point, falling action, consequences unfold, and resolution. Conflicts resolve often with some degree or closure. However, writers manipulate chronology, pace, and casualty to generate suspense, surprise, and meaning. Some stories begin in medias in the middle of things, then flash back to earlier events. Some stories use non-linear chronology, jumping between time periods. Some stories play with pace, racing through years in a paragraph, then spending pages on a single conversation. These choices aren't arbitrary, they serve the author's artistic purposes. Now let's move to characterization. Writers develop characters through multiple techniques. Dialect description tells us what characters look like or what they are like. Dialogue reveals the characters through how people speak and what they say. Action show characters through what people do. We learn more about someone from their behavior than from their stated intentions. Thoughts give us access to interior life when the narrative provides them, and others' reaction show us how characters affect those around them. Complex characters exhibit psychological depth rather than being one-dimensional. They have contradictions. Someone can be brave in one situation and cowardly in another. They have the capacity for growth or resistance to change. Flat characters serve simple functions, while round characters feel like real people with interior lives. Um, Point of view, the narrative perspective fundamentally shapes what readers know and how they interpret events. A first person narration using one provides intimate access to one character's thoughts and feelings, but limits us to their perspective. We see only what they see, know only what they know. 30% limited follows one character closely using he or she, but maintains some distance. We are not inside their head as completely as with first person, but we still see primarily through their eyes. 30% omniscient can enter any character's consciousness. Um, know things no character knows and provide commentary beyond any character's perspective. This godlike narrator, astaghfirullah, has complete knowledge. Second person narration using you is rare but can create interesting effects implicating the reader directly in the story. Each point of view offers distinct possibilities and limitations. Authors choose perspective carefully based on what they want to achieve. Theme. Central ideas or insights about human experience emerge through patterns in plot, character, symbol, and language. Themes aren't messages that can be reduced to simple statements like war is bad or love conquers all. And instead, the themes are complex ideas that the story explores from multiple angles. Themes resist a simple summary, inviting interpretation and debate among readers. Two readers might identify the same theme but understand it differently, and both interpretations might be valid if supported by textual evidence. Hmm. Flannery's O'Connor. Flannery's O'Connor short story, A Good Man is Hard to Find, exemplifies fiction's capacity for disturbing revelation. O'Connor was a Southern Catholic writer known for her dark, violent stories exploring spiritual themes. The story employs a third-person limited perspective following a grandmother or a family road trip. O'Connor uses dark humor. The grandmother is simultaneously symbolic and deeply flawed, manipulative, and self-centered. The story builds toward a violent climax when the family encounters an escaped convict called the Misfit, What begins as somewhat comic family vacation story becomes a meditation on grace, morality, and human nature. The grandmother's journey toward recognition arrives only through catastrophic confrontation with evil in her final moments. Facing death, she experiences a moment of grace on and genuine connection with the misfit. This documents O'Connor's belief that spiritual insight is often requires destruction of comforting illusions. We come to superficial views of ourselves and the world. Sometimes only violent disruption breaks through those comfortable illusions to deeper truth. O'Connor's fiction is challenging because it refuses easy comfort. Her stories suggest that genuine spiritual transformation is painful, that grace often arrives through suffering, and that human nature is more complex and darker than we like to acknowledge. Toni Morrison's Beloved. Toni Morrison's novel Beloved demonstrates um, fiction's power to address historical trauma through innovative narrative technique. Morrison was a Nobel Prize winning novelist whose work centers a fiction American experience, particularly the legacy of slavery. Beloved tells the story of This, a formerly enslaved woman haunted by traumatic memories and by the ghost of her infant daughter, whom she killed to prevent her being returned to slavery. Morrison fragments chronolo- chronology, refusing linear storytelling. The narrative jumps between time periods, circles back, reveals information gradually. This non-linear structure isn't confusing for its own sake. It mirrors how trauma disrupts linear time and rational understanding. Traumatic memory doesn't work chronologically, it intrudes unpredictably into the present. Morrison employs multiple perspectives, giving us different characters' viewpoints. This allows her to show how the same events are experienced differently by different people and how trauma affects an entire community, not just individual. The ghost child beloved functions both as literal character, a supernatural presence in the house, and symbolic representation of traumatic memory that refuses to remain buried. You can try to forget trauma, but it returns. You can try to repress painful history, but it haunts you. Morrison's lyrical prose, poetic image rise, language contrasts with the brutal content she describes. This tension between meaningful language and horrific subject matter creates a complex emotional experience for readers. The novel demonstrates that literature can address even the most painful historical subjects while maintaining artistic integrity. Thank you so much for watching me teaching you the wonderful subject of Introduction to Literature. We will continue next time with the second hour of this wonderful subject. Until next time, ta-ta for now.